If you've already tried beet juice, and most men watching this have, I need you to stay with me for the next 60 seconds. Because what I'm about to tell you explains exactly why it helped a little, but not enough. And it has nothing to do with the beet juice itself. Here's what nobody is telling you. Beet juice is genuinely one of the most powerful natural compounds ever studied for penile blood flow in men over 60. The science on this is real, it is published, and it is impressive. But on its own, beet juice is operating at roughly 40% of its potential. Maybe 50 on a good day. Why? Because there is a biological mechanism happening inside your arterial walls, right now as you watch this, that is actively destroying the very signal beet juice produces, before it can fully open the blood vessels that make erections possible. And until you block that mechanism, you will always get half results. A partial effect. A flicker instead of a flame. One specific compound, something that costs almost nothing, that most of you already have in your kitchen right now, plugs that gap completely. When it's added to beet juice in the right way, the synergistic effect on penile arterial blood flow is not additive. It is multiplicative. And men who understand this combination report results they had genuinely stopped expecting to feel again. I'm going to show you exactly what it is, exactly why it works at the molecular level, and exactly how to prepare it. By the time this video ends, you will understand more about how your own vascular system works than most men half your age. And that knowledge is going to change what happens the next time you reach for your partner. Let's go. My name is Dr. Mei Anderson. I'm a urologist specializing in sexual health for men over 60, and I've been doing this work for more than 20 years. I've sat across from thousands of men in my clinic, men in their 60s, 70s, 80s, who came in believing that what they were experiencing was simply the price of getting older, that erections were behind them, that vitality was a memory, that the physical closeness with their partner was something they now had to grieve quietly and accept. Almost every single one of them was wrong. Not because I had some miracle drug. Not because I handed them a prescription and sent them on their way. But because once they understood the actual biology of what was happening inside their blood vessels, not the vague poor circulation explanation that gets thrown around constantly, but the real molecular mechanism, they could address it. Naturally. Consistently. Starting faster than they ever imagined possible. What I'm sharing today is not alternative medicine. It is not folk remedy. Every mechanism I'm going to describe is backed by published clinical research and understood at the level of molecular pharmacology. The reason you haven't heard it explained this way before is not because the science is hidden. It's because this kind of precise, practical explanation rarely makes it out of medical journals and into the hands of the men who actually need it. That changes today. And if you're new to this channel, welcome to Vital Health Seniors. Hit subscribe and tap that bell right now because what I publish here is designed specifically for men in this stage of life. Not generic health content. The real, specific senior male biology that most channels never touch. Before we go deeper, I want to ask you something and I genuinely want your answer in the comments below. Have you tried beet juice before, yes or no? And if yes, did you feel something, but feel like it wasn't quite enough to make a real difference? Drop yes or no below right now. It takes 2 seconds and I read every single comment on this channel. Your answer genuinely shapes what I make next for this community. Now, let me show you exactly what is happening inside a penile artery when an erection forms, and precisely where the system breaks down in men over 60. Picture this as a 3-step pipeline, because that's exactly what it is. When you drink beet juice, the dietary nitrates it contains enter your bloodstream. But here's something most people don't realize. Those nitrates don't directly affect your blood vessels. They need to be converted first. And that conversion begins in your mouth. Specifically, bacteria living on the back surface of your tongue contain enzymes that transform nitrates into something called nitrites. Those nitrites then travel to your stomach, where the acidic environment converts them into nitric oxide. That's the active molecule. That's what actually does the work. Beet juice handles this first step remarkably well. The nitrate content in beet juice is extraordinarily high, higher than almost any other food source, and the resulting nitric oxide production is genuinely significant. This is why beet juice does something. This is why men feel a difference. Once nitric oxide is produced, it travels to the smooth muscle cells lining your penile arteries. There, it activates an enzyme called guanylate cyclase, which produces a secondary signaling molecule called cyclic GMP. Cyclic GMP is the actual biological instruction that tells those smooth muscle cells to relax. When they relax, the artery widens, blood rushes in, pressure builds, an erection forms. This is the same pathway that pharmaceutical ED medications target. This exact pathway, which tells you everything you need to know about how significant this mechanism is. Now here is where almost every conversation about natural blood flow stops. And it's the most important part of everything I'm going to tell you today. There is an enzyme in your body called phosphodiesterase type 5, PDE5. Its entire biological function is to break down cyclic GMP. The moment your beet juice triggers the production of cyclic GMP, PDE5 begins dismantling it. In younger men, nitric oxide production is robust enough that cyclic GMP accumulates faster than PDE5 can destroy it. The signal wins. The artery opens fully. But in men over 60, nitric oxide production has already declined significantly. The balance tips. PDE5 wins. The signal gets wiped out before the artery can fully open. This is why beet juice does something but not enough. This is why you feel warmth, some improvement, a partial effect, but not the full, firm, sustained result you're hoping for. The fire starts but PDE5 puts it out before it can fully ignite. Now here is what pharmaceutical companies understood decades ago. If you block PDE5, cyclic GMP accumulates. The artery opens fully. The signal is preserved. That is literally the mechanism of action for billion-dollar prescription ED drugs. They are PDE5 inhibitors. That's it. That's the whole secret behind those medications. They don't produce erections. They protect the signal that produces erections. What I'm showing you today is a natural compound that inhibits PDE5 through a completely parallel biological mechanism. No prescription required. No cardiovascular side effects. And when combined with beet juice, it doesn't just add to the effect. It completes the circuit that beet juice started. The compound is called epicatechin, and its richest natural source is raw cacao powder. Unprocessed, unsweetened cacao. Not the hot chocolate mix in your cupboard. Not Dutch cocoa powder. Not dark chocolate syrup. Raw cacao. 1 to 2 tablespoons blended into your beet juice. Epicatechin is a flavonol, a plant compound, that has been shown in published clinical research to inhibit PDE5 activity. When you add raw cacao to your beet juice, the epicatechin enters your system and slows down the enzyme that has been destroying your cyclic GMP signal. The cyclic GMP your beet juice produced now has time to accumulate. The arterial smooth muscle receives a stronger, more sustained relaxation signal. The artery opens more fully. Blood flow improves, not by a small margin but dramatically. But it gets significantly more interesting than that. Epicatechin also independently stimulates the endothelial nitric oxide synthase enzyme, your body's own internal nitric oxide production system, completely separate from the nitrate pathway beet juice uses. Beet juice bypasses the endothelium entirely. Epicatechin works directly through it. When both pathways are simultaneously active, you have two independent sources of nitric oxide feeding into the same guanylate cyclase enzyme, with PDE5 simultaneously slowed down by the epicatechin. More production from two separate systems. Less destruction. Net cyclic GMP levels that your body hasn't seen in years. That is the core synergy. That is why 1 tablespoon of raw cacao into your beet juice creates an effect that neither could achieve alone. Now, wider arteries are only part of the story. Blood flow is determined by 2 variables: the diameter of the vessel and the viscosity of the blood moving through it. Even if beet juice and cacao open your penile arteries significantly, if your blood is thick and sluggish, which it increasingly becomes with age, with chronic low-grade inflammation, with dehydration, the net improvement in circulation is still limited. You've widened the road but the traffic is still barely moving. This is where fresh ginger enters the combination. Ginger contains bioactive compounds called gingerols and shogales. These compounds inhibit excessive platelet aggregation, the clumping together of blood cells that thickens blood and reduces its fluidity. By reducing this aggregation, ginger keeps blood moving freely through the wider channels your beet juice and cacao just opened. Think of it this way. Beet juice and cacao open the highway. Ginger clears the traffic. Additionally, ginger creates a mild thermogenic effect, a gentle rise in core temperature that triggers reflexive vasodilation completely independent of the nitric oxide pathway. A third mechanism of action operating through an entirely separate biological route, layering additional blood flow improvement on top of everything else. 1 teaspoon of freshly grated ginger root. That's all you need. Fresh is significantly more bioactive than dried powder. Please use fresh ginger root if you can get it. The difference in gingerol content is not trivial. The third addition is fresh lemon juice, and this one is elegant in its simplicity. It addresses a step in the conversion pipeline that almost nobody talks about. Remember, the conversion of nitrites to nitric oxide happens in stomach acid. The more acidic your stomach environment when the beet juice arrives, the more efficiently that conversion happens. In a highly acidic environment, the conversion is rapid and nearly complete. In a less acidic environment, which becomes increasingly common with age, as stomach acid production naturally declines, a significant fraction of those nitrites pass through without converting. The nitric oxide potential of your beet juice is literally wasted. Fresh lemon juice is rich in citric acid. Adding it to your beet juice increases the acidity of the entire mixture. When that more acidic beverage reaches your stomach, the conversion of nitrites to nitric oxide becomes dramatically more complete. You extract significantly more nitric oxide from the exact same amount of beet juice. Not by drinking more, just by optimizing the chemistry that was already happening. Additionally, vitamin C, abundant in fresh lemon juice, acts as a reducing agent that catalyzes the nitrite to nitric oxide conversion reaction itself, donating electrons that drive the chemistry forward. More nitric oxide, more efficiently, from the same glass. The juice of 1 full fresh lemon, squeezed directly in, not bottled lemon juice. The vitamin C content degrades significantly in commercial bottled juice. Fresh only. Now I want to pause here for a moment, because what I've just walked you through, these 3 synergistic compounds and how they interact with your body's own arterial chemistry, this is genuinely foundational knowledge for any man serious about restoring his sexual health naturally. Understanding the mechanism is the first step. Applying it consistently and correctly over time is where the real transformation happens. For those of you who want a complete day-by-day protocol that builds on everything we're discussing today, I've put together an ebook called The 30-Day Sexual Health Reset for Men Over 50. It covers not just this combination, but the full nutritional, circulatory, and hormonal framework I use with my own patients. 30 days of structured restoration that addresses blood flow, energy, morning firmness, and overall vitality in a way that a single video simply can't contain. Men who follow it tell me the changes they feel by day 30 are ones they didn't expect to see that quickly. The link is in the description below. If today's video is resonating with you, that ebook is the logical next step. Now let's keep going, because what comes next is specifically for the men watching this who are in their late 60s, 70s, or beyond. I want to speak directly to you, because there is a specific piece of this biology that is especially important for older men. And it's the reason I can say with confidence that this combination doesn't lose its effectiveness with age the way most natural approaches do. Here is the problem with the vast majority of natural erectile and circulation supplements on the market. Whether it's L-arginine, pine bark extract, or virtually any other nitric oxide booster you've seen advertised, they all work by supporting the endothelial pathway. They give your endothelial cells the raw materials, or the stimulation to produce more nitric oxide on their own. The problem is that endothelial function declines progressively and significantly with age. The endothelial cells lining your blood vessels become less responsive and less capable of producing nitric oxide as decades pass. By the time a man is in his late 60s, his endothelial pathway may be operating at a fraction of what it was at 40. By 75, the decline can be dramatic. This is why those supplements work reasonably well for men in their 40s and early 50s. and why they produce disappointingly weak results for men in their late 60s and beyond. The pathway they're targeting has already degraded. You're pouring fuel into an engine with a compromised ignition system. The nitrate pathway from beet juice is completely different. It doesn't use the endothelium at all. The conversion from nitrates to nitrites to nitric oxide happens in your mouth bacteria and your stomach acid, not in your blood vessel walls. It doesn't matter how impaired your endothelial function is. It doesn't matter if you're 65 or 75 or 82. The nitrate pathway remains functional regardless of endothelial age. This is why men who have tried every natural supplement and felt nothing. Men in their 70s who had essentially given up on natural approaches often experience a meaningful response to this specific combination, because for the first time, they're working with a nitric oxide pathway that aging cannot close. And when you layer epicatechin on top of that, which stimulates the endothelial pathway from a different angle and blocks PDE5, you now have both pathways contributing, with the destruction of the signal simultaneously slowed. The compounding effect in an older vascular system is substantial. Let me give you the complete picture of what is happening simultaneously when you take this combination, because I want you to have a clear, concrete understanding of why this works so comprehensively. There are 4 variables that determine penile blood flow, and this combination addresses every single one. Your nitric oxide production is maximized. Beet juice provides nitrates that convert through the mouth and stomach into nitric oxide independently of the endothelium, while epicatechin from raw cacao simultaneously stimulates the endothelial nitric oxide synthase enzyme, a completely separate production system, with lemon juice optimizing conversion efficiency, so maximum nitric oxide is yielded from every sip. 2 independent production systems running at peak efficiency simultaneously. The destruction of cyclic GMP is slowed. Epicatechin inhibits PDE5, the enzyme that dismantles the signal before it can fully open penile arteries, allowing cyclic GMP to accumulate and sustain the arterial opening signal instead of being rapidly wiped out. Blood viscosity is optimized. Gingerols from fresh ginger inhibit excessive platelet aggregation, keeping blood fluid and free-flowing, so it actually moves smoothly through the wider channels your nitric oxide opened. And the conversion environment is optimized. Lemon juice acidifies the stomach, maximizing the efficiency of the nitrite to nitric oxide step, so less is wasted and more becomes active. No single ingredient addresses all 4 of these variables. Together, they cover every biological factor in the system. This is what genuine synergy looks like. Not 4 things doing the same thing, but 4 things each handling a different critical step in the same process. Now let me give you the exact preparation method, because precision matters here and small details affect the chemistry significantly. You need 200 milliliters of fresh cold-pressed beet juice, or a high-quality commercial beet juice with no added sugar and no preservatives, organic if possible. The juice of 1 full fresh lemon, squeezed directly in. 1 to 2 tablespoons of raw unprocessed cacao powder. Not Dutch cocoa, not hot chocolate mix, not cocoa powder from a standard supermarket baking aisle. Raw cacao unalkalized. The processing involved in making regular cocoa destroys the majority of epicatechin content. This distinction is not a minor detail. It is the difference between the combination working and not working. And 1 to 2 teaspoons of freshly grated ginger root. A microplane grater works perfectly. Fresh root, not dried powder. Add all 4 ingredients into a blender, and blend for 30 to 45 seconds until fully smooth. Raw cacao powder needs proper blending. It won't dissolve by stirring. Drink it slowly. Don't rush. One thing I need you to remember clearly: do not use antibacterial mouthwash in the hour before you drink this. The bacteria on your tongue, particularly on the back third, are the living organisms that perform the first step of nitrate to nitrite conversion. Antibacterial mouthwash kills them. Research shows this reduces the effectiveness of dietary nitrate conversion by more than 25%. Regular toothbrushing is completely fine, but antiseptic mouth rinses, avoid them around the time you take this. Take it in the evening, 60 to 90 minutes before bed. I know this goes against what many people assume. Most expect you'd want peak blood flow during the day. But here's the physiology. Your body performs its most intensive cardiovascular repair and arterial restoration during sleep. Deep sleep is when nitric oxide production naturally peaks, when blood vessels recover and remodel, when inflammation retreats. If you take this combination in the evening, and your body enters sleep with elevated nitric oxide levels and suppressed PDE5 activity, your vascular system is healing during exactly the window it was designed to heal in. The cumulative effect of doing this consistently every night compounds in a way that morning use simply cannot replicate. I want to address something important now, because I'd be doing you a disservice if I presented this combination as the only variable in the equation. It is genuinely powerful, but it works within a biological environment, your body, and the environment matters. Hydration. Nitric oxide travels in your blood. Thick, dehydrated blood moves sluggishly regardless of how wide your arteries are. 8 glasses of water minimum daily. If you are not consistently hydrated, you are limiting what this combination can do. Sleep. Testosterone, which synergizes with nitric oxide in penile blood flow, is produced almost exclusively during deep sleep. If your sleep is chronically poor or fragmented, you are working against your own biology every night. This combination supports overnight vascular repair, but it cannot replace actual sleep quality. Blood sugar stability. This is one that many men over 60 overlook entirely. Elevated blood sugar, even in the prediabetic range, directly suppresses nitric oxide production by damaging endothelial cells. If you're consuming high-sugar foods regularly, you are partially undoing the benefit of this combination every single day. Awareness of this connection matters enormously. Daily movement. Even 15 to 20 minutes of walking has been clinically shown to improve endothelial function and nitric oxide production in men over 60. This is cumulative and builds over weeks. The combination we discussed today and consistent gentle movement are not alternatives to each other. They are partners. Now here's what the honest physiological timeline looks like when you commit to this consistently. Within 90 minutes of your first preparation, most men notice something physical. A warmth in the lower body, a fullness or pressure in the pelvic region, an awareness of blood moving in areas that had become quiet. For men in their 70s dealing with significant erectile decline, this first physical sensation is often deeply meaningful, not because it's a complete restoration, but because it is evidence. Evidence that the body still responds, that the biology still works when given what it actually needs. Sleep quality frequently improves within the first few days. The ginger's anti-inflammatory action and the magnesium naturally present in raw cacao both support deeper, more restorative sleep. Men often notice this before they notice any sexual health change, and that improvement in sleep then accelerates everything else. Through the first and second week, consistent reduction in chronic low-grade vascular inflammation begins changing how blood vessels respond. They become more sensitive to nitric oxide signals. Men report greater ease of erection. Not necessarily full restoration yet, but noticeably less effort, less uncertainty, less of that anxious waiting that so many men in this community know too well. Morning firmness, which many men had stopped expecting entirely, often begins returning during this window. Not every morning, but some mornings. And for a man who hasn't experienced that in years, the emotional significance of that return is not small. Through weeks 2 to 4, the compounding phase begins. Epicatecholin's consistent presence starts supporting measurable improvements in endothelial function. Your body's own nitric oxide production starts recovering alongside the exogenous nitrate pathway you're providing through beet juice. The two systems reinforce each other. Men typically describe a qualitative shift during this phase, not just in sexual function specifically, but in overall vitality. Energy levels stabilize. Physical warmth returns to the extremities. A sense of aliveness that had been dimming quietly for years starts brightening again. Partners notice. The dynamic between couples often shifts in ways that go well beyond the physical. For men who want a structured framework that ties all of this together, the combination, the sleep protocol, the blood sugar piece, the full 30-day arc of what restoration actually looks like day by day, my ebook, The 30-Day Sexual Health Reset for Men Over 50, is exactly that. It's the guide I wish I could hand every man who sits down in my clinic and says, "I don't know where to start." It organizes the science into a concrete plan. What to do, when to do it, and why each step builds on the one before it. Men who follow it consistently tell me that by the end of 30 days they feel like they're living in a body that's a decade younger. That link is in the description. If today's video gave you value, that ebook is the natural next step. In my next video, and I want you to look out for this specifically, I'm going to cover the one dietary change that begins reversing PDE5 enzyme aggression permanently over time, not just suppressing it temporarily the way today's combination does. That is the long game version of everything I've shown you today. It's the piece that transforms this from a nightly practice into a genuine restoration of your vascular biology at the cellular level. If you're not subscribed yet, please subscribe and hit the notification bell right now. That video is one of the most important things I'll publish on this channel, and I want you to have it the moment it goes up. And if today's video gave you something valuable, if something I said changed the way you understand what's been happening in your body, please share it. There are men in your life who are struggling with exactly this and telling nobody. Your share might be the thing that helps someone you care about stop struggling in silence. I want to end with something that matters more to me than any protocol or preparation method. The men who come into my clinic carrying this particular burden. The loss of sexual function, the fading of vitality, the quiet grief of a body that no longer responds the way it used to. Almost none of them have ever had the biology explained to them clearly. They've been told it's normal for their age. They've been handed a prescription or sent home with a shrug. They've been left to navigate something deeply personal and deeply important entirely on their own. That is not acceptable to me. It is not acceptable that men in their 60s, 70s, and 80s should have to accept physical decline that is, in so many cases, genuinely reversible, simply because nobody took the time to explain the actual mechanism and the actual solution. What I showed you today is real science. The PDE5 pathway, the nitrate conversion, the synergistic amplification of cyclic GMP. These are not trends or theories. They are the molecular biology of how your body works and how it can be given back what it has been missing. You are not broken. I want you to hear that clearly from a physician who has spent more than 20 years working specifically with men in this phase of life. The biology that creates erections, vitality, and physical confidence does not simply stop working because you turn 65 or 70. It becomes depleted. It becomes imbalanced. The inputs it needs become insufficient. But give it the right inputs, in the right combination, prepared the right way, taken at the right time. And it responds. It always responds. Start tonight. 200 milliliters of beet juice. 1 tablespoon of raw cacao. 1 teaspoon of fresh grated ginger. The juice of 1 lemon. Blend it. Drink it 60 to 90 minutes before bed. Do it tomorrow night. Do it the night after that. Within 30 days, the man watching my next video is going to feel meaningfully different from the man sitting here right now. Not younger, restored. There is a difference. Younger is a fantasy. Restored is biology. And biology is entirely within your reach. Leave me your age and your yes or no in the comments below. Have you tried beet juice before? I read everything on this channel, and your answer helps me keep making content that genuinely serves this community. I'm Dr. Mei Anderson. This is Vital Health Seniors. I'll see you in the next one.